Welcome to Uniquely Brilliant, a podcast for creative, quirky, and extraordinary thinkers of all ages and the people who love them. We encourage, inspire, and provide strategies to motivate you to embrace your unique brilliance and realize your potential for success. Hi, I'm Diana Bader, also known as Coach Di. I encourage teens and young adults to become who they are and develop personal success through self-awareness and positivity. You can find me at freshcanvascoaching.com, follow and like the Fresh Canvas Facebook page, or follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Di.
Hello there, I'm Becky Berry. I am a performance coach who helps people level up their lives by smoothing out the relationship between their work lives and their personal lives. You can find my website at beckyberrycoach.com. I'm on Twitter at Becky Berry Coach, and you can find me on my Facebook page, Becky Berry Coach.
Together we are here sharing our thoughts, insights, and experiences from our own uniquely brilliant perspective. All right, it's episode 99.
99. Drum roll.
Whoa. Today we're going to talk about if we could put time on a calendar. What an appropriate thing to be talking about at 99.
Right?
That's a lot of time that's gone by.
Yeah, and then it's October, you know, everybody thinks of it as the last quarter of the year, like this sword of Damocles hanging over us. So when we said we're going to do this, I just went, if I could Jim Croce just came flying across my brain. And I was like, okay, if I could put time on a calendar.
Yep. And you can.
Well, you know, this came out of, in episode 98, we were talking about taking on too much, and Diana was talking about how she's created a calendar for the next...
Well, it's technically 9 months, but really my focus is on the 8 months of it. Because I was looking at my other calendar, and it was like ending in December. And I don't really have any endings that are happening in December, but I do have endings that are happening at the end of May.
Right.
Because that's when my son graduates. And
from high school, for the record.
Yeah, from high school. And my other son will finish up his freshman year at school. And I needed a way to focus on all the stuff that they've got going on. Mm-hmm. So I could focus on all the stuff I've got going on.
Right.
And then plan in that space. Because everything just processing it all was getting overwhelming.
Right.
And
particularly because you could only go you could only go in quotation marks
to December.
To December.
And I'm like, no, I need more. And like I said before, I need more time. So
and there is more time. Mm-hmm. Hello.
It just doesn't it doesn't feel like it.
When you flip it over to December and the next page is a piece of cardboard, it doesn't feel like there's any more time, right?
Exactly. Where's my little pretty picture again? So yeah, I gotta go buy another calendar.
So I do. Thanks for reminding me.
So yeah, so I and it was weird because I struggled with doing this, some calendar police was going to come and say, well, you can't start in October and end in June. I mean, that's just not how the calendar works. You know, it was just this really moment of, what are you doing?
Well, and you are the queen of the questioner, so surely it was crossing through your mind, well, why can't it end in January?
Yeah, well, exactly.
July? Who says?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't take long to get to there.
Yeah, right?
But my initial thing was, what are you thinking? It's like, you're thinking that this is what's going to work for you.
Right.
This is what you need right now. You need a visual view of the next 8 to 9 months so you can see what you have going on and so you can plan for what you want to be going on.
So that you can prove to yourself that my favorite phrase is true. There's enough.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
There's enough. Because if you look at December, as we're all pretty much do, even though so many of us call September the new January, mm-hmm. right? It feels like there's not enough. Well, there's plenty. You just have to look out mm-hmm. beyond December and beyond the traditional boundaries. Businesses end their fiscal year, so many on July 31st. Why is that? Who knows? Who cares? But they do it, so why can't we?
Exactly. Exactly. And I was caught in sort of a lack mentality mm-hmm. with that December deadline.
And so, like you and I are both bent on doing, we didn't have what we need, so we went out and found it. So you went out and found that time by just flipping to the next page.
Yeah, I actually went out, got poster board and a calendar, and made my own.
Visual.
Pulled the pages out, popped them up there.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
And posted it where I had my other calendar. So I can sit there and see, okay, these are the next 9 months. This is what I need to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because if you frame your thoughts about time passing, which is what a calendar is about time passing based on truly arbitrary deadlines. Mm-hmm. Fourth quarter, who cares? It's not fourth quarter. If businesses are closing their books in July 31st, fourth quarter is next year. It's in 2018. So there are all these artificial constructs that keep us from seeing that there is enough.
Yes.
From seeing that there is enough. Now, I don't know if this is a logical next step thought process or what. I have been reading a lot. Where did I read this? I've read this in the last 3 days, and it's been one of those times where I read a lot of stuff, so I don't know where I read it. About projects and ending a project. So if you have a project that ends on October the 10th, and that project is not done on October at the end of the month, and that project is not done at the end of the month isn't over.
Yeah.
And I just went, I literally sat back and went, whoa, that is so true. Mm-hmm. That is so true. Because we're tying those two things together.
Yes.
So what if we don't tie those two things together?
Exactly.
What if we use that as an outline versus stones? Do you know?
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Instead of stones.
Well, and I've been looking at time as much more fluid as opposed to rigid lately. And so, I want things to flow. Mm-hmm. And when, when December ended and I'm going to have to get a new calendar, it's like you hit a rock.
Right. That ugly, even worse, that ugly cardboard piece.
Yeah. It's okay. Now what? And it was just very hard for me to wrap my head around. Mm-hmm. So, because I needed the fluidity. And I think that's one of the things that happens with businesses in life, whatever, is we create these walls, these cardboard walls that we run into and don't realize we don't have to.
Right.
We can rewrite the calendar to suit us. Mm-hmm. I mean, schools do it.
That's what I was just thinking. Schools do it. Yep.
And like I'd mentioned in the last podcast too, wherever you are in your time of life and if you're working for a company that has a fiscal year that ends at July 21st, or if you have kids in school, you're really operating on somebody else's calendar anyway, and you find yourself butting up against the traditional calendar.
Right.
Which can get really frustrating. Mm-hmm. The only thing is, December 31st happens, it's New Year's, but hold up. And I was looking at this actually for my kids' break this year. Okay, so hold on, we're still in the middle of Christmas break. And when I get to the next calendar, when I get to January, he didn't go back till the 8th. What? Hold up. Now my calendar's all messed up. That's not, Christmas break is now extending into the next calendar by a week.
Yeah, well, Ken would come home. They'd come home like a week before Christmas from Boston. And he wouldn't go back till his birthday, which is at the end of January. You want to talk about mind-bending?
Yeah. So you're constantly having to adjust to different time. Mm-hmm. Why don't you just adjust the calendar for you?
Right. So it can stay. I mean, we're not saying that you're not using the months, that go through the 1st through the 30th, 31st, or 28th, but that where you start your plan for now and where you end, where you find the logical ending for that plan isn't December. It was something else, and so you just went, well, okay, I'm just going to take this plan on out, and my calendar's now, my planning period is going to go out to June.
Well, and a lot of people have trouble starting because of the calendar as well. You can start any month, any day, anything that's going to work for you.
Right.
And then get a different perspective of it. Because I know a lot of people, they won't start a diet unless it's a Monday or the beginning of a month or something like that. Oh, well, I have to wait. There's this belief you have to wait. And instead of that belief of, it's why wait.
Right.
If you're motivated now, if you've got the energy now, if you really want it now, now is the best time.
Right. Well, and that's, we've both toyed. Are you still doing the 12-week year?
Yeah, and actually it works out perfect with this because since I technically have 9 months, so this is the last quarter, so this is a whole nother year.
Yeah.
And then, so I've got 3 years planned out. 3. And
You should see the look on my face. It's not pretty. Just saying.
Well.
It's just pure T jealousy.
Well, though, I mean, like you were talking with the projects, I've had a lot of projects. Things happened this year that interrupted my 12-week year, interrupted 2 of my years. So it...
Oh, 3 12-week years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, which are essentially quarters. But, the projects I still want to do, some of them have altered a little bit, but I've just had to, move them along at the pace of my life.
Well, you're not... It's that thing again. If it's the end of the month and the project's done, the month's not over. So that's what you're like really acting out on, is you just move it out, a little further. So I had a thought. This is so me. You just, Diana, I haven't said this out loud because I just thought of it. So the time on the calendar isn't real until you do it.
Yeah.
So my calendar is like one big fat lie, unless it's an appointment with a human being. And I was just like, oh boy, that's kind of interesting. That's thought provoking.
Well, yeah. And you know what? You sent out that quiz on Facebook. And so this was the thing that was interesting to me. And I used to have a boss that was very much like you in the fact that her most productive time of the day was not the morning.
Yeah.
And I would get over, for a while she was working out of her house and I was working with her. And I would get over to her house at like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And she wouldn't get up till 11 because she'd been up till 4.
Yeah, right.
And so she'd leave me a list and I'd do whatever I needed to do and take care of stuff. And then she'd schedule, because her most productive time and her strongest thinking time and everything else was the afternoon and the evening. That's when she scheduled her stuff.
And I keep ignoring that. So I'm not even like ignoring my, even paying attention to my own calendar, internal calendar, time frames.
And that was one of the things I was so grateful for my older son's college schedule. I mean, his first class every day doesn't start till 10 a.m.
Which should be like a law. Just saying.
Well, though,
except for those 12 kids that don't mind getting up at 5.
No, because I was much more of a morning person. So I might stay up until 1 or so studying for something. But if I had something big, I'd get up at 4 a.m. because it was dead quiet.
Yeah.
And sit out in the hall and study for the test that I had later on that day.
Yeah.
So working with your natural rhythms, the rhythms of your life, that's how things are going to flow more smoothly.
Right.
It's...
And we count it that way in life events. I was just picturing like when you get married. The next day your life starts over.
Yeah.
Not on January 1st. The next day. You have a new life because you've just changed everything. So, when your kids are born, right? When somebody passes away. Yeah, it's just the calendar starts over. Whether we realize it or not, whether we consciously process that or not, but we don't lose any sleep over the fact that that's June 24th.
Yes.
And not January the 1st.
Well, I have a yoga instructor who always starts practice, especially when she was doing morning practices, so what's this new body like today? She'd ask us questions about, how's your body today? Because it's a new body today. Whatever happened yesterday and however it was moving yesterday is yesterday. Today is a whole nother day. You woke up.
See?
And that's so true.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I've awakened in good moods and bad moods,
Yeah. Creaky, knees hurting, and the next day you're like, oh, okay, we're good.
Yeah, got boundless energy. What can I take on? And So to honor that, to honor where you are, how you feel, who you are, and create your own calendar around that.
Right.
And your own system around that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of hard to do when you have other people in your life, but you know, if you honor theirs, both of my kids had completely different sleeping patterns.
Oh, remind us.
Well, my one was a morning person, and my other could stay up all night. And they're still like that. It's kind of funny now having my youngest at home, because when I'm ready for bed, he's ready for bed. Mm-hmm. There's nobody else staying up. It's like, I mean, he'll stay up occasionally a little bit later, but not much later. Mm-hmm. My other son would be up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. And he's finding that out in college because he's got roommates that stay up even later than him.
Oh, wow.
And others that sleep in later than him. And he's like, this is just weird.
Right.
I'm like, welcome. Yeah. Welcome to our world.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, even when they were babies, one would take naps, one wouldn't. So we would have quiet time.
Yeah.
You know, do something as long as you don't wake up your brother. I'm good.
Yeah. It's wild. It's wild. So, you know, I wrote down, don't let the calendar hold you hostage. Mm-hmm. And that again is supposing that the first month of your year has to be a certain month. And it, you know, has to look a certain way. I think it's hard if you start it on a day that's not the first, but, you know, who says you have to do that? Like that continuous calendar you had, right?
Yeah.
More like that model where it just is all. I can't work with that one because I have to see chunked the months. I have to see that. But you know that is a really much more realistic view of what your time is, about how that time flows. On December the 31st, leaving New Year's aside, the time is no different than on January the 1st. It's just a different date, you know? And it's just... And the way we monkey with time now, you know, with daylight savings time, which, you know, I hate more than anything on the planet, because I'm like a serpent. You know, I like that circadian rhythm. So the things are even more off, you know, than they used to be. So it's just... Don't let it hold you hostage.
Well, and one thing I think that's helped me really wrap my head around time is the fact that I have so many friends in so many different time zones.
Oh, yeah.
That's taught me, you know, first of all, I have to make sure which time zone they're talking about.
Hello. You've done that right. Booked the wrong time zone.
Well,
done that more than once.
Yeah.
Becky, is it Central or Eastern?
I tend to be the one that's keeping that in line, which is really kind of funny. But that's, you know, their time of day compared to my time of day. You know, I have meetings that I might be normally getting ready for bed.
Right.
Or I have friends that, you know, will meet with me.
Remember, I work with somebody in New Zealand, honey.
Yeah.
It's already tomorrow. It always feels good to work with somebody where it's already tomorrow.
Yeah, it's good to know, right?
I'm like, ooh, Rachel, I'm glad I'm talking to you because it's Wednesday there.
But you know, one of the things I've been observing, because it's really funny how much I've been thinking about time and space and everything else in the last couple months. But when we're stuck on somebody else's calendar and holding ourselves accountable to time that's not really the
hostage.
Yes, the hostage. We're being held hostage to another kind of time. We tend to squander it, and we tend to resent it. I think we will rebel against it a little bit, and we waste it.
Because we don't value it so much, or because we're resentful? Or both?
Probably both, I would think. Because I know there are people that I would love to, you know, be in contact with more. Mm-hmm. But there's like always this time, well, later. It's like, you know, you need to get into kind of a flow.
Yeah.
With whether it's clients or whatever. I mean,
podcasts.
Yeah.
When we skip a couple of weeks like we've had to recently, it's like, I'm just out of, you know, it's like that washing machine out of balance kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. And when we try to force ourselves into somebody else's calendar and somebody else's way of doing it, if somebody said to us, well, you can't record on Tuesdays, that Mondays are when all podcasts must be, recorded.
You and I both laugh, but yeah.
We'd be like...
We'd be resentful for sure.
I'm sorry, that's not going to work with my schedule. But, yeah,
More like, who are you to tell me when I can do my podcast? That's more us.
Exactly.
What?
Yes,
Says
for sure.
who? You're 30 years late for me to buy that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's true. I do think it's easy to... I hadn't thought about it that way, but when you set up your own calendar that starts when you need it to, whenever this phase of your life is starting, really is what we're talking about, then you innately honor it more because there's a reason it starts then. January the 1st is January 1st because it is, whatever. It's our, what is it? How many calendars have we had in civilization? Hundreds.
Yeah.
But when you do it yourself, that ownership and responsibility, I think, does make it easier to honor it and respect it.
And you don't feel that restriction. The other reason that I've been thinking a lot about time is that we just celebrated my grandfather's 106th birthday.
That's right. That was a great picture on Facebook. I loved it.
Thank you.
You didn't look like you loved it, but it was a good picture.
I was doing the best I could. Actually, we had just driven for hours and hours.
Oh, no. Did you drive straight there?
Well, we had to stop along the way for a college visit, but went up. Then
but I mean,
yeah. It was a busy day. But, thinking of how his time has been, and then I've been talking to friends lately, and it's really interesting to see how people gauge time. To him, he's just flowing with it.
Yeah.
He always has, It's his 106. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'll be 107. Maybe I won't.
Yeah.
We don't know. And then I have friends now who are talking like they're really old. I had a conversation the other day about something I want to do, and they're like, yeah, but aren't you a little old for that?
Oh, jeez.
Or
do you think nobody would ever say those words to me?
And
nobody
well, you might be able to do that, but I'm getting too old. And this is somebody who was younger than me by several years.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, whoa.
Who says? That's always my thing. Who said? Well, my mom, I said something about being old, and my mom goes, what, Becky? I'm like, excuse me, I'm 60. I'm not 30. I'd rather be old than dead, so I pick old. She's like, yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Age to me, I mean, thankfully to my grandfather. My other grandfather lived to 96 almost. Age doesn't register with me.
It's just maintaining a quality of life. It's not about old or young. But those are the adjectives we have. I didn't pick them.
Yeah.
So I just, when I have the best being older I can.
I just look at my mental state and there's no way I'm old yet.
Yeah, right. Me either. Yeah. And again, that's a calendar thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it says 60, people are like, you are not. I'm like, yeah, I am. And I earn every single day of that. Again, it's that arbitrary, if you are this, therefore you are that. And
yes.
It's just not true. And it's less and less true as we have tools to be healthier and feel better, to have a more healthy aging process.
Well, but I think it's still a lot of it has to do with your mental.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen plenty of people who've gone under the knife and done all these things to make themselves look much younger.
Yep.
But you have a conversation with them and they're older than my grandfather.
Right.
So it's
crazy.
It's ridiculous.
I agree. I think it's just not buying into the usual tropes of, you're 50, this looks like this, you're 60, this looks like that, and it's not. I'm the same age as one of my friend's moms, and I said something the other day about being just 60 and passing, and she goes, I forget that's how old you are. She goes, because my mother is the same age, and I just don't think of you at all in the same way. I was like, well, there's a compliment for my day.
Absolutely.
She loves her mom, but that's not it. She just put me in that same age bracket.
Well, and that was one of the funny things I remember growing up, is so many of my neighbors that I grew up with, I was aging faster than they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt it because there were just so many life changes that happened,
for
in your
in your
teens, 20s, 30s, marriage, kids, all that stuff. And they were already, married, comfortable. Mm-hmm. And so they never looked like they changed to me. And it was like really a very surreal time. I just remember coming back going, this is not change. This is odd. You're still talking the same. You're still giving me the same cool advice.
It's like those Ed TV and those weird movies, remember, from the 90s that were like, about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that there's that perennial thing that I like to talk about where it's people who are always relevant. That age doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just your mindset. Are you always interested in something new? Where are things going? What's up? That's what makes you a perennial as opposed to somebody who just stops.
Well, I think that, and the other thing that I know you're really great at, and I try to keep my focus on and stuff too, is being able to interact with a multitude of age levels.
It's important for me.
Yeah. And because it's fascinating.
Yep.
And I mean, my grandfather, this was a real potent thing. My grandfather was turning 106. And my third cousin was turning 6.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I hadn't met her since, I'm not even sure if I met her when she was a baby. And she came into the room and she was totally shy and everything. And we were playing like crazy by the end of the night.
Yeah.
But it was really neat to see that huge generational gap. I was also having intelligent conversations with this age group and that age group. And,
right.
And, the whole span was there. And I think that's really important, is to not get so stuck in your age that you're stuck in your age.
Well, that's a whole growth mindset, that there's always something new to learn, and it's important to learn. And I couldn't turn it off I couldn't turn it off if I wanted to.
No.
For me, it's part of my personality, but you can grow. Right now, I've got clients 23. My youngest is 23, and my oldest client's 60. So, yeah, and everything in between, 30s and 40s and 50s. But it's important to me to do that, and to have things to talk about to people, because I just like to be relevant.
I'm so curious.
Right.
I'm just curious about everything. So.
Right. Exactly.
It's fascinating.
Just because a calendar says you're a certain age doesn't mean you have to turn all that off.
No.
Again, we don't have to be held hostage by the calendar.
Nope.
All right. So, any, fabulous words of wisdom or great stories before we figure out the stamp of brilliance?
I think we're good.
All right. So we'll be right back. I told her that the last time she rang the bell, it sounded wimpy, so now she's like, all deliberate about hitting it. So it's the stamp of brilliance. We just crack up every time.
Hey,
we're really only 12.
It's episode 99. We can crack up whenever we want.
Hey, we're not bound by the calendar. We're only 12 here.
Absolutely not. So that's why our stamp of brilliance is, don't let the calendar hold you hostage.
Boom.
And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a friend. Also take a minute to rate it and leave a review on iTunes. Check out our website at uniquelybrilliant.me and sign up to have the podcast delivered directly to your inbox. Shoot any thoughts, comments, and suggestions to us at uniquelybrilliant.me. You can also reach out to us on our Facebook page, and don't forget to like us. And now we're on YouTube.
Right? Check it out. Until next time.